Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In today's video, we're going to be discussing Horcruxes, as well as a figure in Harry Potter folklore that you may not know very well, Herpo the Foul. Herpo the Foul was an ancient dark wizard that hailed from Greece. We don't have an exact date as to when Herpo walked the earth, but we do know that it was a long time ago, as he is commonly referred to as one of the earliest known dark wizards. It was a time when magic was not new, but being pushed more than ever in terms of its limits, particularly on the darker side of the spectrum. This is largely in part due to the ongoing wizarding-muggle conflict where witches, wizards were being demonized and hunted by the muggle population. The Wizard and the Hopping Pot, a short story from Beedle the Bard, explains the state of wizard-muggle affairs accurately. As the witch hunts grew ever fiercer, wizarding families began to live double lives, using charms of concealment to protect themselves and their families. By the 17th century, any witch or wizard who chose to fraternize with muggles became suspect, even an outcast in his or her own community. Many witches and wizards were forced to hide, to retreat, taking the moral high ground by not retaliating and potentially making the situation more dire. However, some witches and wizards like Herpo the Foul, used this era to practice the worst kinds of dark arts imaginable, all in the name of retribution. Where a morally good magical practitioner in this time may have practiced something like a concealment charm in hopes of better hiding the wizarding population, his evil counterpart would likely spend his efforts trying to produce a spell that could eradicate muggles. Herpo devoted his life to producing and creating some of the worst kinds of magic imaginable, similar to the story of Acrisdis, the possible father of Dementors, who solitarily dabbled in black magic on the remote island of Azkaban in the 16th century. Herpo was possibly the original Parselmouth, meaning he can speak to snakes, and for this reason, I believe that he was possibly the distant ancestor of both Voldemort and Salazar Slytherin. Herpo's affinity for snakes also led to his creation of the very first basilisk. Remember them? But basilisk creation is not where Herpo stopped. For years, he continually pushed the boundaries of magic, and ultimately became the first wizard ever to produce one of the darkest forms of magic achievable, the subject of this video, a Horcrux. A Horcrux is an object in which a dark witch or wizard has imbued part of their soul. The ultimate purpose of creating a Horcrux is to achieve immortality. However, the truly sinister component of creating a Horcrux is that in order to produce one, you must murder someone. When one thinks of Horcruxes, we most commonly jump to Voldemort, since he was able to produce 7, Marvolo Gaunt's ring, the Diary of Tom Riddle, Helga Hufflepuff's cup, Salazar Slytherin's locket, Rowena Ravenclaw's diadem, Nagini, and even Harry Potter, sort of. However, what people often overlook is that Herpo is the original Horcrux creator, and this arguably makes him even more sinister, because as the first practitioner of this type of magic, I can't even begin to imagine what sorts of dark arts experiments he overlooked in order to achieve his goal. What is also worth mentioning, however, is that Herpo and Voldemort are the only witches and wizards to have ever produced a Horcrux at all. This either tells me that they are particularly talented, particularly demented, or a combination of both. J.K. Rowling has openly stated herself that many witches and wizards had tried to create one, but none succeeded. Wizards would have been looking for ways to do exactly what Voldemort did for years, and some of the ways they would have tried would have killed them. So I imagine they're huge parallels. Splitting the atom would be a very good parallel in our world. I do imagine that other people are going to have tried. I think it would be naive not to think that people have been trying for a long time, and thought they succeeded and hadn't, or else maimed themselves or killed themselves in the attempt. It's such a dangerous thing to do. So why did Voldemort create Horcruxes in the first place? Well, to achieve immortality, of course. The sole function of a Horcrux is to preserve and extend your life force, and one thing that I find particularly interesting is that it is unknown whether Herpo is actually alive or not in present day. If Herpo made a Horcrux, then there's still a very good chance that he's alive, right? By the time Voldemort came around, the Horcrux creation process was outlined in a book called Secrets of the Darkest Art. And this is where I'm going to begin to piece together my argument for why Herpo may still be alive. This is the one that gives explicit instructions on how to make a Horcrux, Secrets of the Darkest Art. It's a horrible book, really awful, full of evil magic. Here's the thing, Up until Voldemort, Herpo was the only wizard to have ever produced a Horcrux, and it's likely that he was the only wizard with any information on it. In order to properly understand magic, you need to practice it, as I don't believe that purely theory is necessarily enough to warrant writing a book. So, if there's a book floating around with information on the Horcrux creation process, it only makes sense that Herpo himself was in fact involved with said book. Whether he simply contributed to the contents of the book, or if he wrote the book under an alias, is unknown. The current credited author of Secrets of the Darkest Art is Owl Bullock, a dark wizard that no one really knows anything about. Here's what I think. Herpo the Foul is still alive, and he goes by the name Owl Bullock. Herpo hailed from ancient Greek times, meaning that he has been around for a very long time. His Horcrux secured his immortality, and fearing that his Horcrux could in fact be destroyed, he decided to keep a relatively low profile for the rest of its existence, knowing that he could better impart his dark knowledge onto the world if he remained alive. Perhaps, though immortal, Herpo just wasn't that talented at martial magic. This would make his mind far more of a threat than his physicality. I mean, look at the damage that his published works caused. Presumably, that book, as well as the information provided from Slughorn, is the very way that Voldemort figured out how to produce his own Horcruxes. What better way to sustain your legacy than passing on information pertaining to the most twisted spell out there? I'm of the genuine impression that Herpo is still alive to this day, keeping a low profile. I picture him as a very unassuming man, in part thanks to transfiguration, which would have allowed him to alter his appearance. Perhaps Herpo's alias is even someone that we know about or have seen from the series. So if he's still alive, that of course means that his Horcrux is still intact. This leads us to a new question altogether. What is Herpo's Horcrux? How has he been able to keep it a secret for all of these years? I think that Herpo's Horcrux is actually an object that we're already familiar with, the opal necklace. The opal necklace is first brought to our attention quite early on in the books, but the role that it would play obviously doesn't become clear until much later on. We first see the necklace when Harry mistakenly enters Borgin & Burke's in the year 1992. The sinister necklace was on display in the unusual shop, complete with a warning label. "Do not touch, cursed," has claimed the lives of 19 Muggle owners to date. After that, the necklace isn't discussed or seen again, that is, until the Half-Blood Prince, when Draco Malfoy decides to use it for dark deeds. Katie Bell is cursed by this very necklace. Now, based on the fact that it's what appears to be an inanimate object, and the fact that in order to be subjected to its full evil nature you need to touch it, I immediately began to form the connection in my mind with Voldemort's Horcruxes. The opal necklace is clearly an old, ancient, dark magical artifact, and given its questionable history and the fact that you can't directly handle it, I'm sure someone has tried to destroy it at one point or another. Its existence in the Half-Blood Prince, however, is certainly a testament to its resilience, and I think that its durability may be one of the reasons that points to it being a Horcrux. The opal necklace, however, certainly doesn't keep much of a low profile. I think that the alternate approach that Herpo may have taken would have been to turn an everyday, commonplace object into a Horcrux, something unassuming that no one would ever interact with or touch. What do you guys think? Does my theory check out? Let me know in the comment section below. Until next time, remember, fear of a name increases fear of the thing itself.